Sidney Lumet is here. In 1957, he directed his first feature, 12 Angry Men. Since then, he has produced such memorable and classic work as Serpico, Dog Day Afternoon, and Network. This year, he releases his 44th motion picture in 50 years. It is Before the Devil Knows You're Dead. Here is a look at the trailer for the film.
Andy, I hope you're checking your messages because we have a real mess here. There's 2 terminated employees from your department still drawing checks.
You owe me 3 months.
I don't owe you. I owe Danielle.
Do you need money? It's a serious crime. It's not as serious as you might think.
What are you thinking?
Don't ask, don't tell.
It's a jewelry store, a mom-and-pop operation.
You ain't never done this before. Get a gun. You get a toy gun.
There's no shooting.
You do the driving, I do the thing. Right. Let's do it. She's what, 60, 70?
Don't touch anything. Don't say anything.
She's blind as a bat. Look at me. Blind as a bat.
Easiest money we'll ever get.
It's Mom and Dad's story. It just came apart.
What am I gonna do?
I'm in serious trouble.
Do you realize that I've been having an affair? So can I help you to seconds? Are you gonna get angry?
How are we gonna fix it? Are you gonna get tough? You gonna hurt me? Oh, my God, Andy. Are we good?
I don't think so, no! Shut up!
It's too late to think. This is our future. You can do it. You can do it. Anybody can.
Also joining me, the film stars Philip Seymour Hoffman and Ethan Hawke. I am pleased to have all of them here to talk about this movie. First of all, congratulations, sir.
Thank you, John.
Yeah. Is there something about this that makes this movie the way it is, a Sidney Lumet film? If you looked at it, does it feel, smell, have something, and what is it?
I'm not allowed to say.
I will say this, that when I read the script, I thought this kind of material is in your sweet spot. That I thought it was like a fastball across the plate for you. That I thought, because, you know, in the wrong hands, whenever the film is very dark, the film is very angry, and sometimes people can make anger and darkness and try to make it cool. Mm-hmm. And when you do that, it's not interesting. It's not real.
It becomes against its grain.
Yeah, and I knew you wouldn't do that, and you wouldn't try to sell these characters, and there wouldn't be a lot of close-ups of like burning cigarettes. And do you know what I mean? And I thought that in that way, I thought it was up your alley. But one of the things that's brilliant about your movies is that there is no quintessential. I mean, there's no his style suits the material he's working on.
Does this remind you of any other film you've done, though?
It didn't when I went to work on it, Charlie, but I've had, as you know, a lot of interviews. You know, we've been out selling it here and there. And people keep bringing up Dog Day Afternoon.
Yeah, no, they do.
Which amazes me, because I don't see any relationship to Dog Day at all, and I don't know why it happens. But I do want to say that I'm thrilled that it's got a resonance past this movie for whatever reason. I don't care why.
Where did this movie come from? Tell us the story.
It arrived in the mail in an envelope from a producer who I'd never heard of, and I don't think he'd ever even done another movie. A man by the name of Michael Sorenzi. And I read it and said, "This is a terrific story," and off we went. He had the money, private money, and we took off.
No, describe the story.
2 Jews get on a trolley car.
Two brothers.
Two brothers are one very dominating, the other one very dominated. Take off on this, what seems like perfectly simple, sad little scheme of ripping off their parents' jewelry store. And we go from there.
Yeah.
Which reminds me of another thing that I've heard people discussing, although this was no part of my own intent, about what a parallel it is with America and Iraq. In other words, it's something that started off very casually, very easily, very unimportantly, suddenly winds up with an awful lot of bodies on the floor.
The theory of unintended consequences.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah. But you said it's a melodrama. You said in a well-written drama, the story comes out of the characters. The characters in a well-written melodrama come out of the story.
Right. And everything has to be subjugated to it. And Philip and Ethan will tell you, you know, I told them at the very first meeting that we had around the table that I may ask, I didn't know at the time whether I would or not, but I may ask you to do something that seems forced to you. But it's because in melodrama, when you need an Act 2 curtain, you need an Act 2 curtain, and you subjugate your own desires and what your own impulses are and play the Act 2 curtain. It's part of being honest to the form, to the genre.
By the way, congratulations on the Academy Award.
Oh, thanks.
Wasn't he wonderful when he made his speech?
It was.
It was a terrific speech.
Yeah.
Why'd you choose this for you?
Well, I think I felt the same way about the script. I wanted to add to what they're saying. I was thinking, when you asked that question about Sidney, I was thinking, it's unromantic. I mean, we were talking earlier about, to me, I think I've seen many of Sidney's films, and there's something, there's not a lot between you and that film. You know what I mean? He doesn't you're really right inside that movie, and there's identification not in a way that makes you really look inward, you know? And I think this film shows violence and all those things in a way that doesn't allow you to have the distance or the comfort. And that's what I really love about it, too. And I just wanted to say, I think that's typical in one of Sidney's films. But what I did is I also responded to the story. The story was really striking.
A character you could get into.
Oh, I had read it, you know, a couple years before. I think Sidney had gotten it when it was in somebody else's hands, and then Sidney brought it back to me. You know, Sidney called me about it. Sidney had it. I heard that Sidney had, and that made me very interested, obviously. So
could they have switched roles as I've seen you do on stage? You remember in True West,
yeah.
Right.
Philip will tell you this. Before Ethan got involved, Charlie, when I sent him the script, I said, which part do you
Exactly, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Absolutely true. And then when Ethan came in, Ethan said he would have preferred the part, he came in for the part that he eventually played, and then Philip wound up with the other part. I mean, it was, and that's terrific. That is just terrific. It says terrific things about them as actors, and it says a terrific thing about the script.
You changed the script?
Yes, I did. They were not brothers in the original. And it's hard to imagine it without them being brothers now. But I felt that what was absolutely necessary, because it was very violent and sexual, and I didn't want to have an exploitive piece. And the way to avoid that, in my view, was to just ratchet it up in its intensity. And anything that would increase the emotional risk would legitimize it, and that's where the idea of them being brothers came from.
Tell me about the opening scene.
I did that myself.
Why are you asking him?
I can talk about that. I'm a dirty old man.
The opening scene is Philip and
Marissa.
Why are you starting?
You're nervous.
I'm not nervous.
Go ahead, Charlie.
But there they are, naked on the screen, making love, and that's the opening scene. And what a way to start a movie.
And watching themselves in the mirror.
And watching themselves in the mirror. Oh, forgot about that.
Yep.
Well, I think it's another. Yeah, well, it's not an easy thing to do.
Why not?
For many reasons, but it is, and I think people think this is me just it is another scene you're acting. You are acting the scene, but ultimately, I guess it's another scene that isn't, again, not romanticized. There's something about it, I think. You're really seeing two people having sex the way they want to have sex, and tells you a lot about who they are, and so I look at it that
The reason
way.
for the scene was...
That's why I asked him first, was him what he's just going to say now.
Well, the reason for the scene is it's very important, since he's going to do hideous things over the body of the movie. to just, from the beginning, what does this guy want? This is one of the things he wants. It is not something that comes easily to him. He doesn't live that way in New York. He has to get away to Brazil. It has to be a vacation atmosphere. It has to be a kind of looseness and an absence of responsibility. And that means a lot to him. It means everything to him.
A friend of mine saw the movie, and he really focused on that scene and on my ex-wife and about how a lot of people don't know it, but he got off on this tune about it's a matriarchal society, okay? And we all do whatever we can to please these women who only want more money. You know what I mean? And it drives us all crazy. It says more about him than
Also, Charlie, I must tell you, Marisa Tomei plays...
By the way, who's terrific.
Isn't she marvelous? And I didn't know...
Why isn't she here? Why
I don't know. Why didn't you ask her?
I don't know. I mean...
And Philip is not usually cast in leading men's parts, and I didn't know if he'd have attention about it. Well, as you know, I rehearse, and the rehearsal is just like a stage rehearsal. We block it, get up on our feet. That's the first scene. So on the first day of blocking, where I've got the set laid out and a bed there, and Marisa, bless her, hops onto the bed, gets into the prescribed position described in the script, slaps herself on the bottom and says, "Hop on, Phil." Now, what was marvelous about it is that if there had been any tension for Philip, it would have absolutely removed it for him, because it was so generous, and also placing it in its proper context. We're doing a performance. This is a rehearsal.
Yes.
And it was a noble thing to do.
Yeah.
You said once, I know what frightens actors and I know how they're paying for it. It's an enormously painful process. All good work is self-revelatory.
Mm-hmm. I believe that. And it's one of the reasons I love actors so, because what they're using for the revelation is literally themselves. They're not hiding behind a violin. They're not hiding behind a leap or, you know, it is their actual physical being.
But are you conscious of as something frightens you? I mean, is that part of your makeup as an actor, to know what frightens you?
Well, I'll tell you this. I got this script, and I thought that the combination of these two men, you know, that Philip and Sidney was a match made in cinema heaven. You know, I thought when I saw the little, you know, you get these little cover sheets that come with the script, you know. Yeah. And, you know, Philip is interested in playing this film that Sidney. I thought, oh, wow. And I thought, well, this is exciting. Let me read this. And as I read it, I got more and more depressed, because I knew that I was going to play the part, and I knew that I wanted to, but I was like, couldn't it be something more fun? I was like, couldn't they be sending me something where we got to, like, I was like, this part is going to be absolute. I mean, to play this guy well was going to be a nightmare.
A nightmare?
Yeah.
Why do you say so quickly?
I mean, the film is...
This is about a guy coming undone.
Well, they're both in their own way. I mean, it's like, because I know why he's saying that, and I know why I would say the same thing. I mean, you're really going in every scene that you're shooting, like he said, ratcheting it up. Sidney you're just constantly ratcheting up the exposure of who this character is, which ultimately is.
And the thing is that something remarkable happened, and I've never seen it before that Ethan did. He's playing a very weak man.
Right.
And number one, you cannot have a weak actor doing that, and you cannot have a weak man doing that, because he'll disappear, especially sharing the screen with this one. Yes, exactly. And Ethan came in. He brought this. I didn't have to go get it at all. He came in with the most active pursuit of this character. Everything he was always in flight. He was never still.
Different than in character, always in flight, always in motion.
Right, and he'd walk into his room and he'd jump over his bed and sort of tuck himself into a corner away. You know, he activated the whole quality of fear and the action of fear. And I found it absolutely heartbreaking.
You're probably right that only a strong person can really play a weak person well.
Yeah, because if they're weak, they're going to...
They don't know how to... You know,
bye-bye, Charlie.
They'll just disintegrate in front of the stronger character. Mm-hmm. When when you approach this, I mean, what's the idea that, you know, this character is going to disintegrate? I mean, how are you thinking about that as a performer? You know?
Largely instinctually.
Really?
I mean, mostly through, it's what I found so valuable about Sidney's process. The fact that Phil and I didn't start talking about our characters on the first day of shooting.
Did not?
Did not. You pick up a lot. If you're any good at this job, you feed off the reality that other people create. And I start to see which road Phil is going. I hear Phil talk about the way he wants to play a certain scene. I hear you talk about, oh, this guy's out of your mouth one day. Well, this guy's, he's a mean guy. You said something like and in little things that happen as you rehearse and work on the take, I came to believe that this person that I was playing was so in love with his brother and wanted his brother's support so much. He wanted his affection from his brother so much that he began to hate him.
Because he knew he needed it.
He wanted it so bad, his approval,
enslaved.
that he began to hate him for this desire. He saw his brother as strong. He wants to be strong. You know, and then you start having these little ideas. There's a scene with Brian where I'm talking Brian into doing the crime. And I try to just imitate you, which is what, and that's why he wants to sleep with his wife. He wants to be him. He wants to hurt him, both of them. Do you know, how can I hurt this person who's dominating me so bad? I know. I'll have a secret. Do you know? I'll be secretly hurting him. And then you get these windows. Very good. But you get these windows through rehearsal. If you get it through each other, you know.
You know what's interesting to me is just the way actors think. I mean, that's sense.
Yeah, and one of the things, Charlie, is that I've fallen in love with high def. I mean, I don't want to make a movie on film again.
Are you serious?
Oh, I'm totally serious. This one was done on high def.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
So. That's right. Yeah,
but I mean, all the arguments they make for film in terms of texture and not true.
You know, anything.
But high def just
anything they can get on film, I can get on high def, and even better, and in total control of it. At any rate. One of the big advantages of high def is that I can use multi-camera technique the way we did in live TV. So that, for example, you come to the scene where the two of them are going crazy. They're in the midst of the big rip-off of the dope dealer's house. He's beat up one person, shot another, and now they're just loading the loot into the bag. And I was able to have a camera, one on Ethan, one on Philip, and therefore, they were able to play the entire scene straight through, without a cut, without a break. And a magical moment came out of it. At one point, Philip stuck his head out of the closet, and he said, "So we're okay?" Now that wasn't in the script. He just did it on the spur of the moment. And Ethan did a double take, and just a helpless, ironic laugh. Now, I don't think that I ever would have gotten Ethan's reaction as legitimate and as hurtful and as painful as it was with a separate camera. In other words, that if I'd had to go back after doing Philip's side and try to recreate that moment, Philip trying to recreate that moment for Ethan so that Ethan's reaction could be as wonderful as it was. But high def allowed me to do that.
Take a look at this scene. Here it is.
Why, let's solve it.
What are you talking about?
There's a place we can knock off. You know, like the back of our hand. Easiest money we'll ever get.
What are you saying?
It's worth about 600 grand. And it's insured, so it's a victimless crime. And I offer that in case your faggoty little conscience bothers you. I lay it off on 20 cents on the dollar. It's 60 grand each. Give or take.
I can't believe this is you that's talking.
Believe it. So it's safe. Nobody gets hurt. Everybody wins. It's perfect.
What? Do you need money?
Of course I need money, but this is a serious crime, Andy. I'm not a serious crime kind of guy. I got a kid.
You got shit. You got a whole lot of shit. You said so yourself. All the time, every day. You know what? It's not as serious as you might think. You're my little brother. Now, trust me.
You were watching this and you said part of this, what?
There's behavior that because when Ethan said, I think when I said that, I think there was a moment where it was more like, I think he's a mean guy. Like the idea of that you get an insight because you don't want to judge the character as but you do get an insight and go, oh, and because he calls him faggoty and he calls him these things, and it really bothered me during rehearsals. Like I remember going to Sidney and going, do you think he would use it? Maybe he doesn't say faggoty here, and I've never been like that. No. I'm always like ready to embrace the dark side.
Whatever the text takes you.
But there's something about this part that I think scared's not is not the right word. It's something about that's intimidating or overwhelming, and the idea that you have to embrace something about the character where he feels like he has ownership over this behavior somehow, and with this person, and that character owns it somehow. They're not saying those things. They're not being demeaning like that, and being self-conscious in the same moment. And I remember that was probably had a lot to do with why I was thinking about it that way.
It was kind of it was a realization on your part, and that made me think, oh wow, right.
To say faggoty to somebody and not kind of go inside, which I go like that inside, but that someone would actually say that and not have any thought about it.
Doesn't even know it's hurtful. Doesn't even think of it as hurtful.
Thinks it's fine.
Well, but also you see, I think part of the thing, Philip, that was giving you that feeling about the part in general was Paddy Chayefsky always used to say. You can tell a hero he's got a pet the dog scene, and you can tell a villain because he's got a kick the dog scene.
And boy, do I kick the dog.
All you did here was kick the dog.
Everybody kicks the dog.
There were no pet the dog scenes in this.
That dog runs away with the money, though, doesn't he?
I want to take a look at another scene. Roll tape.
Let me see your hands. You say it again, I'm in.
What are you talking about?
You say it again, I'm in.
I'm in.
I just wanted to see if you're pawning that chicken chip baby stuff like when we were kids. It doesn't count. I have my fingers crossed.
I'm in. What are we doing to win?
It's a jewelry store. Does this ring a bell?
No.
What if I tell you it's got a Foot Locker on one side and a Claire's Accessories on the other? Yeah, that's right. You got it. Now listen. We don't want Tiffany's. We want a mom-and-pop operation in a busy place on a Saturday with a week's take still in the safe. We both work there. We know the safe combinations. We know the burglar alarm signals. We know everything is. I figure between the week's take, the jewelry and the cases, the vault, there's a $500,000 haul. I figure probably 6. That old dumb old lady that works there, she's alone till noon. She's not going to be a problem.
Andy.
Yeah.
That's Mom and Dad's story.
That's what I said. The mom and pop operation.
Sidney, tell me about voice.
How do you mean, Charlie?
With just a sense of actors and voice, and what the importance of voice in a role.
It's terribly important because it's one of the prime revealers of falseness. One of the quickest ways that you can tell that the actor has lost his concentration, or
you can hear it.
Is pushing it as you hear it. I sometimes hear it before I see it, and also I get very involved with which register the actor should work in. Whether it's chest tones or head tones. When we were doing The Verdict, I said to Paul, "Oh, drop it all into there," and he knew exactly what I meant.
You're nodding and saying this is absolutely on.
Yeah, because because there's a certain, you hear yourself, sometimes you're playing a role, and you'll start rehearsing, and you go, God, but this is not happening. You realize that your voice does need to drop into a natural place, but does need to go someplace else.
Or the character's voice is not coming out in you.
Yeah, you need to let your voice drop or let it rise.
Yeah.
I think that's true.
When an actor is connected to their voice and that voice is connected to the material, that's when it pierces. You know, that's when it pops. That's the goal.
Very true.
And when oftentimes when you're rehearsing and you hear it not pop, you hear it not pierce, that's when you know you have to stop and go, okay, why don't I know what I'm doing?
Ethan's whole performance is an octave over his natural, higher than his natural voice. It's amazing.
Because it's fidgety and nervous and...
Well, it just came out of him doing the right things emotionally. If you go for it, just as a mechanical thing, it'll
feel that way.
It'll feel that way. But it'll always arrive if you're working honestly.
I would think it would be fun not only to have Sidney Lumet as a director, but Albert Finney is on the set.
So much fun. Everyone's like, were you intimidated? I was like, no, he's just fun. And he was she was wonderful.
I mean, he really does knock it out of the park, doesn't he?
Every time.
Every
time.
Yeah.
But that's the thing about British actors, I always feel like. They have such a better... Their relationship to the theater, what it does is... It has a humility to it. You could spend the weekend at his house, I imagine, and not know he was a film actor. He doesn't talk about it. He doesn't.
Absolutely.
American film, we're all full of like this great anecdote, and this is when I met this, when I was on the Charlie Rose show, this amazing thing happened, and blah, blah, blah. And he just talks to you and listens to you, and I found it so relaxing to be around him.
Yeah.
And funny.
And funny.
Very
funny.
The lovely thing about
He plays the father and the...
That's right.
The lovely thing about Albert is the ability to cut out of a scene. For instance, American actors very often, Philip has this, Pacino had it, Ethan less so. They have to stay in the state that the scene has to be acted in, and which takes an incredible toll, I would imagine.
It's awful.
I think by the end of the day, you're a little tired.
I'm actually stopping that. Not gonna happen anymore.
And Albert cut, and it goes. And then he knows movies.
That's age and relaxation, though, don't you think? He's just a pro. I mean,
it's wonderful, Ethan, because
it's great.
What happens is he's been in enough movies that he knows when we're getting close, when he knows that when the cameraman takes the meter out, it's time to start the engine.
I got to the point. I remember really quickly. It was near the end of the shoot, and I shot some scene, and afterwards, Sidney has a. I just trusted him so much, because he really allowed me to say or do whatever I needed to say or do, and he never got in my way at all. And it meant so much to me. And I would sometimes come out of scenes and go, I know Sidney said it was okay. And I walk out, I'd be kind of self-conscious, and I knew I could go to Albert. Because I knew Albert would be like that. I knew I could
go to Albert.
Meaning I could just have the actor talk, the actor chat afterwards. And I could sit with Albert and be like, Albert, how'd you feel about it? And Albert would be not in the scene. He would be there, and he'd be available, and he'd be there. And he'd be able to have the moment, because he was incredibly available guy. Really wonderful.
We have this relationship because first time we met, Phil hopped up on the bed and said, "Let's go, Sid."
No, but it's true. You get anxious, you get scared, you get all these things, and a director that allows you to be that way.
Yeah.
It's an important thing.
Well, that's a director who knows. Even what you said about voice, it's funny, man. I don't know that there's very few directors I've worked with in film that would even be able to say that sentence. And you know your way around actors, and I could tell that when I read your book. But
yeah, that's true.
But on the set with you, you don't even know the things that you know that are helpful. Do you know? There's a vocabulary you have.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I want you to continue.
No, it's just when you really know what you're doing, it's actually without effort. Do you know you're not trying?
Yeah, we
to
would
do
finish it. Sometimes. We would finish this like the scene in The Office, which is a 5.5-page scene. We were done by 4 p.m. Ethan and I were like, "Did we just do that?"
Whereas a young director would see 5.5 pages, they think, "Okay, we only need 3 days.
We got a few days." Yeah.
Okay, and it was a little unclear when we started shooting, when we stopped rehearsing.
Yep.
And the thing about Sidney was saying about shooting 2 cameras is it stops. There is inevitable, no matter how good and respectful an actor you are, if all the cameras are pointing at Phil, and he's doing a scene, and it's a 5-page scene, and I'm off camera, it's inevitable that I'm not going to think that much about what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody's looking at me. The whole focus of the energy.
And
but if
very self-conscious.
Yeah, and what it also does is it makes the other actor incredibly self-conscious and aware of when you move your hand and when you don't. And if both cameras, there's this, the way the energy in the room is being moved, it's fair and there's an equality to it, and the stakes are up for you and for me.
Right.
And it's
also the relief that you're not going to have to do it twice.
I know.
You
Big
know,
relief.
you can go
If
all
you
out
go
the first
for it-
time.
Oh,
If
yeah,
you
yeah,
go
because
for
of the
it-
camera situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. This has been fun. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you
very
very
much.
much.
Thank you,
Very
Charlie.
much. It's great to see all
Always.
of you. Before the Devil Knows You're Dead is the film. Thank you for joining us. See you next time.